Alright, so hello everybody, welcome to another video, and patch 27.0.11 has arrived and it has some glorious reactor changes. So, the reactors still have a little bit of randomness to them in terms of avionics capacity, but it's no longer complete and utter madness. Okay, because previously you would oftentimes get an MK3 reactor that would be worse than an MK2 reactor and sometimes only as good as an MK1 reactor. This was just awful because despite what Steve kept telling us that it's not modding up to capacity, you need to mod up to capacity and getting more capacity is always better. So here are the new numbers. For the Lavan reactor, the MK1 rose between 20 and 30, the MK2 rose between 50 and 60, and the MK3 rose between 80 and 90. For the Vidar reactors, the MK1s rose between 30 and 40, the MK2s rose between 60 and 70, and MK3s will roll between 90 and 100. And finally, the Zekti reactors, where the MK1s roll between 10 and 20, the MK2s roll between 40 and 50, and the MK3s roll between 70 and 80. Thank you, DE, for this change. It was probably the most requested one because it was the most outrageous thing about this. I remember trying to farm a good reactor in the Vale, and I did like 10 missions, finally got a reactor, only to realize that it had 23 avionics capacity, and I was like, yep, that's it. I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm just gonna wait for the one that I can build in the dojo. Which also means that I scrapped them. So, yeah, I have to farm them again now. Moving on from the reactors though, they temporarily removed the Tenebrous ephemera from the anomaly. So if you want to farm the ephemera, don't do it now. It is not there for the time being. And they did say that it will return with a different method of acquisition. So it will probably no longer drop from the special containers you find behind the hidden walls in the anomaly. And I totally understand this, because, I mean, it's time to get its content, right? You can't farm the anomaly all the time, you can only do it for about 30 minutes. Then you would have to find a secret hidden wall, then you would have to get this special container to spawn behind this wall, and then you would actually have to get the ephemera, because you could also just get the Captura Stein instead. Yeah, let's just say you weren't very likely to get this ephemera. Next change, and this is a pretty big one as well, so when you now hit maximum wreckage, instead of it auto-scrapping everything you pick up from that point, which was just stupid, there will be a pop-up that's like, oi, you have too much stuff, go back to dry dock and do something about it. Then they finally made it so that if you've invested some resources into a wreckage, you can just cancel it before it's done and you will get all the resources back. Though if you've already finished it, you still only get 80% of the resources that you put into it. Then they did some relatively small changes to avionics, like for example they made it so that the unscrappable avionics will no longer stack with the scrappable avionics to cause confusion. And then it's just a hodgepodge of some random fixes and changes, like for example if you now have a hull breach on the ship at the end of a mission and you finish the mission, it will automatically be fixed, which is nice. They increased the range on Winged Cyclone, Winged Force, Winged Steel and Winged Storm to 1000 meters around the Railjack, which is nice too. They sped up the mounting animation for the side turrets as well as the slingshot, and this one is really good, especially if you're playing solo or you're an engineer that mounts side turrets, because yeah, the animation was pretty long if you were just going through it over and over and over again. They made the forge on your Railjack far more visible. There is now a yellow beam that shines out of the console, which is good as well, because I remember when I first got my Railjack, it took me like 2, maybe 3 days to realize that there is actually a forge on the Railjack. And that, I think, is pretty much it for all the bigger stuff, unless they buried something really important down here, but I can't see it. If, by the way, you want to go through the whole thing yourself, I will put a link to the forum post in the video description. So yeah, another set of fixes and changes for Railjack, which is good, because it needs them. Is it enough? Well, that's up for you to decide. For me it is. I mean, the reactor change is really good, the avionics changes are good, the wreckage changes are good, and it shows that they care. They want to make this work and they want to make it fun. And I'm happy with that, but anyway, that's it for the video. I thank you very much for watching. As always, guys, I hope you've enjoyed it, and I will see you some other time. Bye bye.